Hello everyone and welcome to the first video of this year, and I'm so excited to be recording this one, although I know it's coming quite late. And yesterday also made it 2 years since I started this YouTube channel, so thank you everyone for being here, for the support and the positive comments and feedback so far. In this video, I'm going to be making an argument against the fact that the number of issues on the Flutter framework repo does not make it a bad choice for your mobile application development. So there's been a lot of buzz on the internet about the number of issues, open issues on the Flutter framework's repo. You can see over here it's 5,000 plus, and to be exact, the open issues is actually over 7,000 as compared to React Native, which just has about 726 open issues. So I'm going to be making a case against this, and to also explain why you have this high number of open issues on the Flutter framework. I'm not saying this number is a good thing, but I'm just going to be explaining why I don't think it's a very, very important yardstick to measure to choose React Native over it. And I'm also not going to be for or against Flutter. I'm just going to be against the argument of the number of open issues on Flutter. And here are some of the reasons behind the high GitHub issues open on the Flutter framework repository. First of all, Flutter exploded very, very fast. Flutter came out of the beta version in late December, I think December 2018. And after the event by Google, there was a lot of buzz around Flutter about how Flutter was easy for beginners to get up and running in, how it was fast to build up your applications. And there were a lot of positive feedbacks around the Flutter framework or the Flutter SDK. So lots of developers jumped in to try to test out this Flutter framework, and it caught the fancy of many beginner programmers. Many newbies were able to dive into Flutter, and they got up and running quickly as compared to React Native. And this is simply because of how it is quite easy to get up and running in Flutter. So I'm going to be showing you later on a simple graph just to illustrate the point behind this. So when a tool or library explodes very quickly, what happens? It means so many people would dive into it, and while they dive into it, there are going to be lots of open issues because there would be so many things that they don't understand, and there might not be enough Stack Overflow questions and answers to actually solve their problems. So the next point, I'll be diving deep into all these points later on in this video. This video should be around maximum of 10 minutes, I believe. The next point, lots of inexperienced newbies. So what do I mean by this? What that simply means is that most of the people diving into Flutter, the new entrants and trying out the Flutter framework, are inexperienced developers, which simply means that most of them don't have experience in previous platforms like the web or native mobile application development. And you could see this from the community based on the type of questions they're asking. It shows that they have very little knowledge about the whole concept of programming. And I'm very sorry about the pounding noise currently. I don't know if my microphone can pick it, but if you can hear that, I'm very sorry about that. And many of the questions, many of the issues being opened are not really bugs with the Flutter SDK. Most of the many, I wouldn't say most, because I've not checked every open issue, but many of these issues are something that if the developers have knowledge about the framework and how to use it, if they know about that and the whole Flutter framework, they could actually solve these problems without opening an issue. And one thing to also note is that an issue does not necessarily mean a bug. So some people might not know their way around Flutter, and they just go open up an issue, and the number of counts just keeps increasing, and it makes it look like if Flutter is extremely buggy. Next, you also have more platform. Flutter supports more platform. Currently it supports iOS, Android, web, and desktop. Although the web is in the preview phase, while the desktop is, I think, in the technical preview phase. Everything is bundled into that repo, and later in the video, I'm going to be showing you where they mentioned something like that. You're still going to be using the same Flutter SDK to build your web applications with Flutter. So if you have an issue and you're currently developing for web or you're currently developing for desktop, where are you going to be opening those issues? You'll have to open it on the same Flutter repo. So you have issues from the iOS, the Android part, the web, and the desktop all bundled into one repo. So if you do the maths, you can see that this number would be high as compared to something like React Native that doesn't support directly, that doesn't support desktop application development directly on its repo. So this could also be a factor that could also increase the number of open issues on Flutter. Next is that Flutter is an all-in-one tool. It's an all-in-one SDK as compared to React Native. If you've developed around Flutter, you'd be hearing the term that everything is a widget. So Flutter comes bundled with lots of already made widgets for you. It comes with the navigation, it comes with scaffold, it comes with text, it comes with almost everything you need. It comes with a list view. Almost everything you need comes bundled with Flutter. Unlike React Native, whereby if you want to do something like navigation, you'd have to download React Native navigation or React navigation for your React Native projects. If Flutter has lots of widgets all bundled into the platform, what do you think could happen? So for instance now, if you're developing in React Native and you're using something like React Native Navigation, if you have an issue with React Native Navigation, you go to their repo and open up an issue. But with Flutter, you have to come to the Flutter repo and open up these issues. So with more power comes more responsibilities. So this could also be a contributing factor why you have that amount of open issues, because some of these issues might be open for desktop, it might be open for web, it might be open for the navigation widget that comes with Flutter. So this could be contributing factors as to why we have lots of open issues. Next is, I'd have to be sincere, Flutter is still an experiment. Although the future looks bright and although the experiment has been bringing out positive results, like Flutter can boast about performance as compared, you could actually compare the performance and the smoothness of Flutter apps with native apps. So this experiment is currently fruitful so far and the future looks bright. So if something is an experiment, it means that there is room for more bugs and stuff like that. So these are just some of the reasons why I think the number of issues are quite high. And it simply does not mean that Flutter is trash or Flutter is shit or something that you would never just do. Because if you stick on the amount of open issues as the only yardstick to measure the awesomeness of a framework, of a library, of an SDK, I don't think that is a very good yardstick. And I'll be defending every stuff I just mentioned here in the next couple of minutes. But before I do that, I will just show you a previous argument I had with, not an argument, kind of like a discussion where I wrote an article about the Axios library for JavaScript and why you need an Axios library. Someone said that Axios library is bad because of it has 500 plus issues as compared to something like isomorphic onFetch. And this was my response, or this was my reply to that particular stuff. I don't think just judging the durability of a framework or of a library just by the number of open issues is the only factor you should consider, because some frameworks of some libraries are quite new. There could be just one bug that would link to other bugs. There could be chain reactions. There could be lots of factors that could make that library a good choice for you. So I said here that measuring the awesomeness of a library or framework by using only open issues and PRs alone is not a good yardstick. You need to include other variables to your analysis to draw a conclusion that is more precise and reflects the opinion of the community using the said library. So you don't just go to a library and see the amount of open issues and just refuse to use the library. There could be reasons like the library being new, the library having very few maintenance. You could hop in and become an open source contributor instead of opening your mouth to make unnecessary complaints. So back to the video. Let's take a look at the Flutter issues that are currently open. So I would be sincere, I have never visited the issues page on Flutter. But I decided to do that yesterday, and I found out that some of the stuffs, a good number of the stuffs open here were not actually issues. They are just lack of understanding from newbies on the Flutter framework. And the thing about newbies is that they just, most of them, many of them don't learn about that. So some of the issues they open here is actually a dat problem and not a Flutter problem. So this is the thing that follows up when you have lots of newbies on the framework that refuse to learn Flutter step by step. You need to know that before you learn Flutter. And you can see lots of, if I click on this, for instance, I hope, waiting for customer response tag. These are some people that might have opened some issues, and for the past 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they haven't replied. They haven't commented or replied to the issue they opened. You can see waiting for customers is about how many? 205, which is open, which is normal. And you can see what I mentioned here. You can see this platform is what? The platform is for web. You can see everything is just in this repo. While for React Native, every issue opened here is either for iOS or Android related stuff, or probably for the progressive app parts. But that's just the few points I want to make over here. And let's see. Let's just let's click on this stuff. App not working. App not working is an issue. And if we analyze this, let's see. So you can see now, it says here, media query.auth called with a context that does not contain a media query. No media query ancestor. You can see now from this, because of my knowledge of Flutter, from this stuff, I know it's not an issue with the Flutter framework. It's just the person lacks the knowledge, or the person just skipped. That's the disadvantage of Flutter too. So many, as in it's easy to get started that you skip up the basics which you ought to have learned. This is a simple error. This is an error from the way the person created the code. No media query ancestor. So from this, if you look at the code, you can see that the person just created a widget directly, and he was making use of the media query.auth. And you cannot just create a widget and call this auth constructor. You have to create another widget. You have to kind of like nest the widget you want to use inside. Or you can't just create. To make use of the media query, your root widget must execute before the child widget can actually get access to this. That is why it is saying here that no ancestor with the media query could be found. So what this person ought to have done here would be to do something like to make this widget a separate widget and call it in a parent widget. Then this error would not be there. That is one. Or you could actually use a builder. So the code that would be making use of this media query.auth, you wrap it in a builder and this error would be gone. And I covered that in a previous video in my YouTube channel on Flutter Technical Interview. If you watch that video, you'll be able to solve this particular error. So you can see here, like I stated the point of lots of newbies. So people skip to learn the basics and they jump into Flutter and they just open lots of issues. Maybe they post on Stack Overflow and Stack Overflow don't give them the right answer, or they can't be patient, or they can't wait. They just come and open up an issue so quick without knowing the basics. So that is one of the reasons. You can see what I just explained here. The response here, you can see you need a media query ancestor, and you can see what I just explained here. See the parents widgets, and where's the child widgets? Data search. You can see the child widgets here. So with this now, it means that this widget now has access to the media query, because this widget would have to execute, and it has the scaffold and it has the material app. So you now have access to that media query, and you can see, let's see, waiting for customer response. Okay, 5. hours ago. You can see this is not an issue with Flutter. Now multiply how many solvable issues you have by the amounts of, by the 5,000 we can see over there. Divider widgets can't set width. I also commented on this, I think yesterday when I opened this up. So when you see this, divider widgets can set width. If you have a good knowledge of Flutter, if you've learned the basic, you would know that widgets operate based on hierarchy. So if the divider can't set a width, what do? Wrap it with something like a container or a sized box and give the parents a width, and this problem is solved. But you can see this is an issue on Flutter thanks to the fact that we have lots of newbies. But I'm not against newbies or stuffs or inexperienced developers, but I'm just trying to defend why you have this large amount of open issues. So you can see this person replied, and I also I gave a solution of wrapping it to the size box, or you give this one, and I tried it in DarkPad and it worked. I think I ought to be coming here often. But you can see that is just some of the points that we have here. So the next thing I would want, and you can see the person hasn't replied for the past 2 days. So the next thing I want to cover here would be Flutter Web. For instance, you can see Flutter Web. Initially, it had its own repository, but currently you can see it has been moved to the Flutter official repo. So imagine if this project had like 500 open issues. Where would they be? They would be on the new repo, which amounts to the high number you see over there. And one last thing. And Flutter, the Flutter SDK consists of those 3 layers. You have the framework, which is what we use. That is that code you write. And it also has a C++ engine, which is kind of like the building block of Flutter that relates to the native code. So this is the repo, but nobody comes here to make any issues. If you have issues, you open it where in the Flutter repository. So these are some of the factors that contribute to the high number of open issues in Flutter as compared to React Native. You can see React Native has over 18,000 closed issues. And you can't compare Flutter. Flutter is still pretty much new as compared to React Native. I think React Native became stable in 2015, while Flutter just became stable in 2018. So if something explodes so quick, you would have so many bugs, you would have so many lack of understanding, you have so many people trying to figure out stuff. So that could be a contributing factor as to why Flutter has so much issues. And that does not mean Flutter is not good, but don't just use the number of issues as a yardstick to just turn down Flutter. So if I would want to illustrate React Native and Flutter, this would be React Native. You can see React Native has grown gradually over the years. The adoption rate has grown gradually because people using React Native most of them came from the React background. So many of them adopted it gradually. From React, they switched gradually into React Native, as compared to Flutter, which after the announcement of Flutter Interact, I can't remember, in December 2018, so many people just jumped in and the number of users just went. I think this is quadratic, and I would call this kind of like linear. So this could be also a reason why when you have so many people jumping at once, there will be definitely confusion, bugs, potholes that people would discover. Finally, like I explained in the previous slides, you can see React Native on its own I should have given a title. These are just the number of open issues on both platforms or both frameworks. You can see React Native just has 717 and Flutter has 7,365. But Flutter is an SDK, so it's kind of like it has a tool chain. It has lots of integrations already built into its compiler debugging that comes in the package. So you can see the number of this. But for React Native to work, it depends on what React. How many issues does React have? You check. For you to be able to build a complete app with React Native, you'd need either React Native navigation or React navigation. How many issues do they have? You put that into consideration. Now, for quickly bootstrapping your React Native projects, you could use something like, you could use Expo. Expo is the popular one. It's kind of like a tool chain that has lots of services for you to bootstrap your React Native application. So you'd also put that into consideration, although you might neglect using this if you don't want. I personally tried out React Native in 2018, and it was, I did not have a good experience with it, although I believe it should be better by now, but I had a terrible experience with Expo, and you can see it has about 653 issues. Expo also has a CLI, also have hems for rendering. You also have React Native vector icons, while Flutter comes with material icons and also Cupertino icons. And finally, for you to Flutter and React is based on JavaScript. And for you to run JavaScript outside your browser, you need something like a JavaScript runtime. And for this, React Native uses what? Node.js. And you can see these issues. So, but as compared to Flutter, that it's kind of like an all-in-one bundle. You install Flutter and everything is there. You have all your widgets, you have navigation, you have the CLI, you have everything already. So if you do your comparison, you don't just come and say React Native has 717 open issues and Flutter has 7,364. You should be smart enough to check, okay, is React Native standalone? Does it have everything included as compared to Flutter? So if the larger your code, the larger maintenance, right? And the larger maintenance, or the larger code, it also means that the higher potential for more bugs. So you can't compare Flutter in terms of size with React Native. So Flutter is an all-in-one package. React Native is a framework that depends on React. So you have to put all these things into consideration. If you're coding a React Native project and you have an issue with React Native navigation, you open an issue on the corresponding repo. But if you're coding on Flutter and you have an issue with the navigation, you open the issue on the Flutter package. So replicate this same scenario for the rest of this other package. You could see that developing React Native has an approximate of over 3,000 open issues, while Flutter has over 7,000 open issues. So if you compare this former value to this new value, you can see React Native has about 10% of the issues compared to Flutter. While if you add other dependencies that makes the development of React Native complete, you can see it's about half the number right now, about 45% as compared to 10%. So you can see there are different factors that contribute to this. And I'm not trying to support that Flutter's open issue is a good thing. I'm just trying to show like why. If you want to consider Flutter, and I'm also not trying to convince you to use Flutter, because this is not like a paid promotion or something. It's just based on my experience, and I got pissed off seeing lots of YouTube. I think there was one, Mitch Tabian or so. He said Flutter is for babies, and the only issue he stated on that entire YouTube video was just the number of open issues. And you can see here, it's not just the open issues, it's not just a good yardstick. You should try it out, and I think the guy hasn't even tried out Flutter. So I hope this video was informative for you guys, and I hope you don't just see Flutter and turn it down based on the number of open issues. I think it's also a work in progress based on the fact that Flutter just exploded fast and so many people dived into it. So there are likely to be more open issues, because Flutter is also an experiment. So people are still, you can't compare. At least React Native has stood the test of time. It's something that is actually durable. I'm not condemning React Native, because lots of big companies like Shopify recently switched. They're currently switching their mobile ends to React Native. So React Native has stood the test of time. But turning down Flutter based on the number of open issues, I don't think it's a solid argument. So everything I've shared here in this video is my opinion and based on my observation. and I am open to corrections and criticisms. Let's just share and let's just make these two frameworks better. It's not like a competition. Flutter has its pros and cons. React Native has its pros and cons. So I'm open to corrections, criticism. It must not be constructive as long as you just criticize with a very good point. If not, I'm going to roast you in the comment section. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.